What is up, YouTube fam? Javier Mercedes here. I'm excited. Look at this. Look at all these cameras right here. I am so excited. So last night, the guy in front of me, Scott Clark, he's a DP for a living. He sent me this email with so much stuff for his dossier, and I just look at all these notes that I just want to ask this guy. YouTube fam, Merce Nation, Javi Posse, Merce Universe. I don't know what to call my fans.
I like that.
But
Merce Nation is good.
Let me know down in the comments down below what you want to be called, because I just normally I've been saying YouTube fam, but
yeah, you need your own.
there is so much stuff I want to go over today. It's gonna be amazing. Hopefully you guys are not tired of me talking. Let's get to you. So Scott Clark. He does documentaries, music videos, short films, commercials, branded content. We've worked together. We've done stuff. I didn't know all the stuff that you're doing, but after looking at everything yesterday, and just your sizzle reel alone from the last couple years is just it looks so badass.
Thanks, man.
So let's dive straight into it.
Yeah.
The first question I want to ask is going from the term videographer to DP.
It's a big jump.
How let me know what that means to you. Because to me, no, go ahead, just answer.
No, I mean, it's that could be almost just a podcast by itself. But yeah, I think it really is. It's kind of a mental transition for me. I remember having that kind of internal debate. But to me, and I mean, no judgment. I hope no one is assuming that I'm making any kind of judgments here, because I would definitely say I started off being videographer category. If you pick up a camera and you shoot stuff and it is for your own creative satisfaction, I think that to me is the biggest distinction. Really just the creative difference between the videographer role and the DOP, cinematographer. I mean, even just the name of the position is kind of up for debate. But yeah, I mean, I started the grind as what I would consider a videographer in a lot of ways, at least professionally speaking, which to me is you probably, if you're a videographer, you shoot a fair amount of live events, whether that's weddings, concerts, any kind of a convention, stuff like that. Basically, more on the corporate side, I think, is kind of what that feels like when I hear that word. Is if I'm a videographer, I'm probably shooting, something for a large company. And it's not necessarily meant to be for narrative entertainment.
Oh wow, what a great term, narrative entertainment. I'm gonna
know
use
what
that
I mean?
from now on. Yeah, for sure.
And again, it's not that I didn't have the side hustle and my own kind of fun projects, but to me, and again, no judgment, but I think if you're wanting to really make some sort of a distinction there, it's probably when you're working professionally, making something, narratively entertaining, that has a story. It's got some creative juice behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And for the viewers that know nothing about the backside of production, can you just give a brief explanation of your role in the scheme of a production?
Yeah, so I've worked kind of everywhere in the camera department, as you would see it structured traditionally in Hollywood. They have different levels of distinction. So you got your cinematographer, your director of photography, interchangeable terms there. You've got a first assistant camera, second assistant camera, maybe a camera PA. And they all work in concert with every other department. But yeah, I mean, for me, if I'm the DP, my responsibilities ultimately, and this is actually kind of an interesting and nuanced question in some in some productions because I think a lot of people assume if you're the DP, and this is how I've always been, if you're the DP, you're the one who's operating the camera. But that's not necessarily the case. The DP is really responsible for the look of the project, right? So there are many instances, even high-level production where the DP doesn't ever touch the camera. He's responsible for setting up, he's coming up with the composition, he's coming up with the lighting plan, the angles that we're cutting back and forth between, and ultimately that's what he is or she is there to do. And many of the better known names, if you hear about a cinematographer, I think a lot of people just assume that they're always on the camera, but they're not.
I would assume that once you're up at the higher, like if you're getting Emmys and things of that nature,
Yeah.
like or not a Grammy,
Yeah.
or an Oscar and things like that, you are not touching the camera, or you're at least looking through the eyepiece, but you might just be having an eyepiece and not actual camera just to see all those things. Yeah.
It's important to get a photo of yourself with the eyepiece when you're on set too. That's crucial for people to take you seriously.
It's like putting a matte box on your camera.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember in film school, they one of the things that would always be mentioned as a kind of the DP joke is like make sure that you're pointing at something when you're in a photograph, so it looks like you've got some authority and you're doing something important. So always be pointing.
I have to remember that.
Yeah, but anyway, so I mean, the DP is responsible for the way the project looks, and so to me, the most crucial points of that, I mean, on a base level, you want to be in tune with the director, the screenwriter, the people who are responsible for the narrative of the project, and you want to make sure that your framing, your composition, your lighting plan communicates the story that they want to tell, right? And I mean, like, this is probably stuff you've all heard before, but the more that I shoot, the more that I end up thinking about why this shot should be framed this way, versus just put a tripod and go and that's it. Like, it's not always just getting coverage. It's about putting the camera in the right place and lighting it the right way so that you feel the emotion, that they want you to feel at that moment.
That's, I think, one of the other big distinguishing parts to videography versus doing the type of work that you're doing, where it's like you're talking about establishing a shot, creating a certain aesthetic, where in most videography, I'm thinking in cases like, even in this situation, I have 3 cameras set up, but it's like one-man band hitting record and making sure all that stuff is all good and whatnot. But it's one of those things where it's about capturing a moment if you have to. It's just like, all right, well, if it's in the square, then I got it type of thing. Whereas like when you have time to set up and make things look beautiful and how they need to, that's where it's like the artistry really shines.
Absolutely. And one thing that I think that I learned, I would just say, if you're not learning every time you go out and do something, you're doing something wrong. Like I'm by no means an expert. I like to learn on every shoot that I do. And one of the things that I keep coming back to is it's easy to overlook pre-production. But that's really where a lot of the magic can happen, to make it look the way that you want it to look in your head. And I think that it's one of those things that gets overlooked pretty easily. Is just like, okay, well, we've got the camera, we've got the guy, we've got the talent in front, we've got everything we need. Let's just go shoot. But if you actually take time to break down a script and visualize what you see in your head when you're reading those, like reading the page, there's just so much more that goes into it than just being there when it happens. And I'm not saying that you can't just go there and shoot and do your thing, because I've done a lot of that too. But I think that's one of those things that gets overlooked, and it should be given a little more respect.
Oh, you can see it in your work. It's for sure.
Oh, thank you.
What I was gonna say before breaking down your part in the grand scheme of things is the relationship and the importance of teamwork in this field of doing video.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the coolest things is how much more you can accomplish by working as a team as opposed to a one-man band, like going and shooting a wedding. And even in doing weddings and things of that nature, you still will probably have a team of people.
Or something.
Yeah. But there's so much to be said for if you're trying to get the shot, there's another person sitting there. It's like, oh, let me tape this off. Let me get that. Oh, do you need help with the tripod? And then like everything gets set up, and then all of a sudden, I think it's a part of the trying to create the least amount of friction from you and your creative idea.
That is perfect. That's exactly right. Filmmaking is a team sport. There's no other way to put it. I mean, like it is. If you are trying to do it all on your own, I don't think you're going to get very far, or you will plateau probably a lot sooner than you want to. It takes a lot of moving parts. I've actually been one of my side gigs these days. If for people who don't know, Fear the Walking Dead's shooting here in Austin right now.
Awesome.
And so I've been working on what they call the EPK crew, which stands for Electronic Press Kit. But really, what that is behind the scenes. And you would be amazed at the number of people and the number of specific small jobs it takes to make that production go. It's pretty incredible, and I definitely would recommend checking out the behind the scenes on AMC. You don't have to have that plug in there, shameless. But the point is, it really gives you an idea of how many different departments working in concert with each other it takes to get something done. And you make a very good point that the fewer layers of obstruction between what you want to see on screen and just doing it makes a world of difference to just have like, okay, I don't need someone to go, I don't have to go run and get a battery right now, or like I need somebody to camp out over here for a second so I can like get this shot set up and then move there quickly. Or you're absolutely right. It is one of those things you need to work with other people to do it right.
Yeah, and not only that, but you all start learning and growing together. Even if you're with a different crew every single time, it's just it's crazy. Let me ask, if you go from set to set, different project to different project, and you're working with other people, how is it when you step into a situation where you're working with somebody that you haven't worked with before, shooting wise? Is there some sort of like, you talked about pre-production. Do you like sit down and talk with somebody beforehand, or how does that work?
Ideally, yes. To be real about it, it rarely happens that I get the type of interaction that I would love to have beforehand with a new crew. But I consider myself fortunate in a lot of ways. One of them is living in Austin. It's a really great community here. And people are on top of it. It's not a whole lot of amateur hour stuff. And I mean, I've heard horror stories, but I've had a lot of good experiences. It's rare that I've had someone who's completely green who I have to teach on the job.
Okay.
But not to say that doesn't happen. I think one of the things really that makes the difference is when you work with someone regularly, you kind of develop a shorthand with them, about like just little things. So the more you work with someone, the more you get to know what the other person likes, how they operate.
For a camera operator.
Yeah, exactly. So like, again, it goes back to like fewer layers in between. Just being able to tell someone something simply and they get it, that definitely makes a big difference. So while yes, I've had those experiences of having to explain what I mean by a certain thing, or vice versa, because I do a little bit of everything. It's usually just making sure that we understand each other, which sounds so simple, but it can be very difficult on film sets. As I'm sure many of you know,
Yeah.
we have names for everything, and they don't always make a whole lot of sense. So, just being in tune with each other. Realistically, like, I'm usually at best on the phone with them the night before saying, hey, what time are you going to be there tomorrow? Can we...
What gear are you bringing
Exactly.
and all that stuff?
Yeah. But my experiences have been good with that. It's a good community in Austin. So
Awesome. Work-wise, what is your typical week or month like? Are you, because I think what most people are interested in, at least from my standpoint, is like we were talking about that step from videography to just doing DP work. How did you get to, and how are you treating this as a business? And is it just like, I don't know, you have like 5 phone calls lined up every single day?
Yeah.
Are you renting out your equipment? Like, how do you hustle to do all the things that you're doing right now?
Yeah. I will be honest. It is definitely, it's not an easy thing to do.
Actually, can I also say, so he has some very expensive cameras right behind us right now. And to give you an idea of what I mean by this question is, like, you're not a normal Joe Schmo when you have an Ari Alexa right here. That is what this is,
yeah,
right?
It's an Alexa XT Plus. Yeah.
I'm sure it's very, I know Ari and I know the term Alexa because I hear it spoken a lot, but this thing is heavy.
It is.
And then there's a red, is helium?
It's an Epic W. The helium is the name of the sensor. Yeah.
Okay. So, but the fact that, like, if people know, like, okay, Red, Ari, like, these are not your new Sony A7 IIIs that were just dropped for like $1,000, I don't know, $500. I think they're so cheap for that kind of camera now.
True.
But so you can tell that he's invested in this business.
Absolutely.
Continue.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's very it's definitely connected. So I think probably a lot of people who do this type of stuff have, I mean, it may not be everybody, but I think a lot of people have a similar philosophy. A lot of the people who I work with is you reinvest in yourself. So picking up, I mean, like I've been through, this is, I think, my 4th Red camera at this point.
Jesus Christ.
And I mean, I'm not keeping them all at the same time.
Yeah.
Turn over, but, it's something, there's always going to be something new to get. We will, like, it's a difficult fight against, they call it gear acquisition syndrome.
Gas.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you know it.
Yeah.
So,
I just heard it for the first time from I had another interview with another subscriber and he brought it up to me. I was like, I think I have that. But yeah.
It's tough because when you hear people on the higher level, that's not what they're thinking about. And it's a weird balance because on one hand, you hear a lot of this gear doesn't matter. Just, like it's the person, not the camera, which yes, that is true. But gear helps, and so there are certain things that having cameras like these will allow you to do that you can't just go buy, a T2i and pull off. And it's really, to me, it's about, it's not necessarily that everyone needs to have these cameras. I think it's just, it's appropriate if you're thinking about investing in a camera. Think about what suits your work. And I mean, again, all these things sound obvious, but it's easy to get distracted by spec sheets and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. When really it's just what will allow you to do what you want to do the best. But yeah, I mean, like to pay off these cameras, it's definitely a grind, and it is a conscious decision whenever I make a bigger purchase like this. I kind of have to say to myself, like, you know what, the next, 3-6 months, a year is going to be a lot, to keep up with everything that it takes to pay for stuff like this. So a typical month or a week, I get a lot of jobs probably in the, I would say 5 to 7 day heads up range.
Okay.
I would say those are probably the bulk of my jobs are in that kind of like a short window. Most of the more like narrative considered, jobs that have pre-production, I probably get more like 3 weeks notice. So a lot of what I'm doing is just managing my schedule, because it's very easy to double book yourself if you're not paying attention, which I've done before, and it's not fun. It's
being the guy with the camera. That's not a very big. That can be a big situation.
Yeah, it's tough, and I mean, you have to navigate carefully, because you don't want to burn bridges. You want to make sure that you are a good, upstanding member of the community. But yeah, I mean, like a lot of what I do is on my days off. Just basically track which projects are coming up and what I need to get ready for those. I have a spreadsheet that I keep with incoming and outgoing invoices, which is stuff like that. It's not the glamorous part of filmmaking, but it's necessary. And it's definitely something that I have lagged on, because I just want to go out and shoot. Like, I don't want to have to think about all this stuff. But you kind of have to. So a whole lot of my free time is just spent managing that stuff, making sure I've got what I need for the next project. And a lot of it is, when you mention rentals, that's definitely one of the nice things about having these cameras, is they can generate passive income for you, which is helpful as a freelancer, because you don't know when your next job's going to come. Like, you could be busy, you could be working, 28 days of the month, 1 month, and then the next month just be nothing, Yep. And it's seasonal, like there are slower and faster seasons for filmmaking. Right now is particularly fast, because the weather's nice. People like shooting. There's not any major holiday that we need to worry about scheduling around.
That's crazy, because you don't think about that stuff.
Oh yeah.
But you, in your field, for sure.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's just, you really have to be willing to roll the dice on stuff sometimes. Like, I think that this is kind of advice that I think applies to a lot of different fields, but if you're not, you hear, like, if you're not doing something that scares you, like, what are you really doing here? So I think that it's important to challenge yourself and take on projects that maybe when you first hear about them, maybe it's a little intimidating to think, like, this is going to be on me, like, can I pull this thing off? But I would rather be doing that, and failing at times and learning from that, than being complacent and shooting the same projects over and over and over again. So I think it's important to seek out those, like, creatively challenging projects, for one thing, and really just be willing to work. Like, it's easy to just turn stuff down because you've got 5 days already in a row and you don't want to do another thing for 4 more days after that. But if you really, especially making a larger purchase like this, it's definitely a commitment to make it a responsible decision. You really have, I mean, I'll be honest, I take projects sometimes that I would normally say no to because I got to pay bills. And, that kind of goes back to, when we talked about, it might be something like shooting someone at a PowerPoint screen for a day, which is not...
I've done that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not glamorous. You're never going to put that on your reel.
Yeah.
But they need someone who knows what they're doing to do that for them. And you got bills to pay. So pay those bills, man. Just do the work, So it's not always like these, mega projects that you want to show off to your friends. But, little by little, it kind of... the more work you do, I think the better projects you get, with some asterisks, but we can get into that later.
Well, I was gonna actually. I think that goes more towards in any field, especially freelance and things of that nature. Can you talk to me about the networking, or just like, it's weird because the more I do these interviews, growing up and going to college, they're like networking, and but it's like, if you could get a degree in networking, it would be like you would rule the world. I don't know what that would be. It's just, it's like these intangibles that you have to have in order to go from one step to another. And in my experience, it's like say you did the PowerPoint thing, right? You did a PowerPoint thing for some professor somewhere. They did that thing. Turns out that professor was at a wine get together with some other person that's like, oh, hey, yeah, I've been thinking about putting together this business and I need this one thing or I need this whatever. And then all of a sudden you're shooting like on it or something, like one of those other companies that's like one of these multi-million-dollar companies that all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, because you did that one thing. I don't know.
True.
Yeah.
It is so true. It's funny because this actually is on my mind a lot, because I would say right now I could probably trace 60% of all the jobs that I do back to one person that I met in 2013 at South by Southwest.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. But another one of those cliches you hear a lot. It's about who you know. It really does start to snowball. And I mean, this may be different in different cities, but it will, one person leads to another person, leads to two more people, leads to 5 other jobs.
You get exponential growth.
Yeah, and speaking as a person who is not particularly like a networker type of person. Like it's hard to be on and like go out and do, like some people like that's it. And like you've got that, like you're on camera, you turn it on, you've got like the personality.
I don't know. I think it's because on YouTube there's this like when you first of all you got to grab them within the first like 5 seconds or rather like, but then there's that other part of it where you have to be a real person and talk to them however it needs to be. But I think in terms of the audience that's there, it's you like, hey, welcome to this show. Yeah. And this is what we're talking about. Yeah. And not only that, but I was really excited to do this interview because it's especially from all the stuff that you sent last night. It's to me, it's crazy. One of the interviews I just did with the guy that did the Squidbillies. He did the sound for Squidbillies and all this other stuff. He had this one conversation with the guys that ended up making the show Squidbillies out in this hallway. And because he had that conversation, they went on to do Squidbillies, but they also did Aqua Teen Hunger Force. They did Space Ghost Coast to Coast. They did all these other things, and not only that, but those writers are now writing stuff for like random like stuff that Nickelodeon owns and all this other stuff. And because of that one conversation that he had, 180 plus episodes later, he's still working with those people, and it's like attaching yourself, not necessarily attaching yourself to them, but you just start forming a relationship of like, oh, hey, like just what you were talking about with working with another camera operator. It's like, oh, like we get each other. And then and then going back to getting rid of friction and all the other things that to get from point A to point B, what's the straightest line that you can get to that? Right. Yeah. It's crazy.
It is. And one thing I would say, again, like I'm sure most cities have something like this, but, filmmaking meetups. If you can find one of those in your city, there's one that's here in Austin. You may have been to it. It's called Austin Creatives Happy Hour. Oh, awesome. I'll add you to the email list. But they meet up every other week at bars on the east side usually, but wherever around town. And it's a great place to just meet like-minded people, or rather, not like-minded people, but people who are in the same industry. Hopefully you're not all thinking the same stuff all the time. But anyway, filmmaking meetups I think are a great way to just, and I mean, I definitely, when I got started in this stuff, I took a lot of those low-paying to free type of like, we need somebody to do just this little thing. Like, are you willing to help out? That will go a long way. If you're serious about filmmaking and don't get this, don't get me wrong. Like, I think there's also another conversation about what your rate should be
and what you're worth,
and
your self-worth.
And I'm on that train, but, a well-placed, pro bono day here and there, can go a long way too. So.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you move to a new city. I think one of the very first, and speaking from the videographer in me, is charities, like working with nonprofit, because nonprofit they have to approach and get money from other people that have a lot of money. And that's where those conversations start happening, where
Very
it's like,
true.
oh, hey, who was the guy that did your nonprofit video? And then boop.
Yeah.
Oh, Javier's here to do the thing.
Yeah.
It's I think that's a good place to start too, because like everybody, they need that exposure. Not only that, but you're helping for probably a very good cause, because it's a nonprofit. And so most nonprofits too will actually end up paying for something at least, but at least you're not like, you're benefiting the world because of what you're doing,
It is nice, I will say, especially if you're going to work for free, that's a good place to do it, because you can feel good about what you did at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Which is not always the case, but no, I'm totally with you. I think that's a great place to look if you're looking to scratch up some work.
Yeah, especially to start just getting the ball rolling in a new city, because I think there's two aspects there. If you move to someplace new, or if you're just getting out of college, and which you're probably moving to someplace new as well, there's just trying to establish a network of people is half the battle, probably
really
most of the battle
I
in
think
terms of
you're right.
filmmaking, because you could be the best person, but if you don't have any contacts or anything in some place, then you're always probably going to be going back to wherever you were.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Let's go ahead and get into some of the stuff that you've shot. I think the coolest things that, in particular, just trying to formulate your style or whatnot, is the music videos and Bright Light Social Hour.
Yeah.
There's certain shots in there. One of the big things is the mirroring effect. Was that something that you knew about before shooting it, or after? Was that just the editor, they started doing that?
It's funny. So that was actually, so I know those guys going back to high school. I went to high school with one of the lead singers, co-lead singer, Jack O'Brien, who's got the famous mustache.
Awesome.
And so that was one of those very low budget projects. Pretty, like, we had at least some time to put into pre-production, but everyone was pitching in for low or no rates. And that, of course, carried over to the edit. And so we had some thoughts about how that might go, but that was actually an editorial decision on Jack's part. He took up the mantle, and it worked out. I mean, like, because of the style of imagery that we were shooting, it worked really well.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't throw that effect on any old video and have it make any sense or come out. But it worked great for that one. Yeah, that was a Jack stroke of genius on that.
Awesome.
That video.
One of the ones that I loved was the shooting behind the drummer into the sunset, and then it's like there's still that mirroring effect there. But the fact that you couldn't anticipate that the mirroring effect was going to be there, that all of those waving of flags and everything worked out.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
Was that you in the back of the truck at the end of the music video?
It was, yes.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It was, man, I should, I'll see if I can get you a picture of what that rig looked like. But the truck, that little blue truck, we took it over to back then it was Gear, now MP&E, but and spent probably like 4 hours in the afternoon building this ridiculous overhead rig to shoot down into the bed of the truck where Joe, who's like he's kind of the spacey kid in the back.
Yep.
It was it looked hilarious on that truck because it was like, it's like 70s like tiny little four banger, and the rig was like the size of the truck that was going over it, and they like had to drill into the bed to make it. I'll see if I can find a picture for you. It's pretty silly looking, but it was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How much time did you have before doing a project like that to like set up, and how much were you working with artists since you knew them personally? I feel like you guys probably
did have some more lead time on that one. Yeah.
And it definitely looks like it.
Yeah, they I mean, that really can make a low budget project look, it'll make it punch above its weight if you have time to like plan out what you're going to do. It definitely makes a difference. And yeah, I mean, like, they're also just really creative guys.
Being
so
musicians
it's
too.
fun to kind of just riff with them. Like, I think one of the best ways to go into a project like that, and I mean, you hear this in a lot of things too, but is have a plan, but be willing to be flexible.
Yeah.
So, we had a structure for what we were planning on doing, but on the day, a lot of it changed, or got tweaked just to try other stuff out that we thought might work a little bit better, because you can see stuff in your head and it's not always going to be exactly what you see when you point the camera that way. So you just, you need to be willing to adapt and be flexible and, experiment a little bit when something's not working. You have the framework to work against, but you have a little time to freestyle and do your own thing. I think helps a lot in those projects.
Awesome. Another music video, the 1,000-Foot Whale. The other thing is, like, you sent me these links, and I'm like, man, I got to move on. But I actually kept just like replaying them just because I wanted to listen to the song again. I think that also helps when you're working on a project.
Yeah.
If especially a music video, if like, oh man, this is a catchy song, it makes it a lot better.
Yeah. So that video is in some ways the opposite of the Bright Light video. So that was from maybe about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, when we shot it. And it was crazy because that video is nothing like what we planned on shooting. Like, absolutely nothing.
Wow.
So basically what happened was our director, Chris Rush, very talented dude, also a DP. We worked together on a lot of stuff. He and the band, they're under like this umbrella called Holodeck, and don't quote me on this stuff because yeah. Anyway, so he came up with this idea where essentially the whole video was going to be the lead, the guy who you see in the video now, being kind of like the main character. He was going to be walking through portals essentially, which were these like pretty elaborate PVC pipe tunnels that Chris and like a couple of the band members built. And this was, like I said, it was like 2-3 months ago. So it was pretty cold in Austin still when that was happening. But the idea was basically like, okay, we're going to shoot this guy doing a long walk. He'll come into the tunnel, and then we're going to move the tunnel to a different location and align the shot just right. So when he comes out of it, he'll be in a new place. And there was like sort of a concept based on that. We had locations picked out and all this stuff. So Chris built these tunnels. Like I said, it was pretty cold out. And the night before we were supposed to start shooting, it was a 2-day shoot. The night before we were supposed to start shooting, the tunnels that he had built out of PVC pipe snapped. Like all of them. Because it was like below freezing, and whatever the deal was, like he'd put a lot of time into it, and it was like all down the drain. And so we had crew for 2 days, and we had
everything was blocked out. Everything was in place except that.
Yeah, and so we basically had to rework the entire video, like from scratch almost. And we only had one paid location that we already had booked, which is where the entire video was shot in 1 day instead of 2, which was the used to be a National Guard armory. It's over on like East 51st Street. But anyway, basically we just had to go. We took our first shoot day to scout it. So we just got to look at some of the different rooms that we could be working
You guys were like, hey, take the day off for the other people.
It's like we're there, like we were planning on doing something anyway. So let's do something, try to salvage this. So, so we went to the armory, just walked through the halls and realized like it could be kind of its own thing. Like, I mean, you can see it in the video. It's got a lot of unique looks.
The question I was going to ask is those fences that are in there. It's like, were they there, or did you guys just like bring them?
The fences. I'm trying to remember which.
There's certain shots where there's like you're using the depth of field to shoot through the fence, and they're like you're kind of like moving them and things like that.
Yeah.
But
so those were because it used to be an armory. Those were, I think, where they used to have like gun storage.
Oh, okay.
Or some sort of like weapon, or maybe like maybe it was just like uniforms or something like that.
Yeah.
But those were all like everything that you see in that video. All the props were like there.
That's crazy.
It was, so that was a good example of like, we just have to go like figure it out as we shoot. And it was actually one of the best sets I've ever been on, because again, it was a situation where a lot of those people were friends of the band, friends of ours who were in it. And so we were pretty open to people just like throwing in ideas, like we could try this, like what if we do this type of shot. But really the whole thing we shot, it was on this camera, on one lens the entire time, and we had a Movi and a wheelchair. And a lot of those shots were just pulled off me in a wheelchair and the Movi and having somebody just like wheel me around to get, and we try each shot a few times until we found what we liked and then move on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For those listening, he's talking about a red camera just on a image stabilization device.
Yes.
Image stabilization device.
Yeah.
That's not a coined term, but it's like warp stabilizer for real life.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the two different shots. The first one that is really cool, and you have to do it on set. There's some ways that you can do it in post, but it doesn't look as cool, is when you get a nice vanishing point in a hallway, you do the Jaws effect, where you go towards something and you either zoom in or zoom out.
Yeah.
And there's a YouTuber, D for Darius, and he takes that to the next level, and he does it all the time in a lot of his stuff. But I saw that, and I was like, is that something that you anticipated for, or was it just like day of, you're like, oh hey, let's just get these shots because they're cool?
We did actually on the Scout. I think we talked about it a little bit, but yeah, that was one that that we were all on board with and kind of had in mind, because that it has that look there. You can really take advantage of doing, and I mean the whole concept of the video is surreal, so it's it worked out really well to just do some really weird kind of visual effect stuff like that. And that's one of those things. It's I probably wouldn't do do it for every shot like you said, Darius.
D for Darius. Well, he just likes doing it. But he's also like one of those videographer guys that's like one man band, but he has just like not a T2I, but he used to have just like an 80D. And like when you're doing that and you're a videographer, I feel like sometimes if you're just especially like doing a wedding or something like that, you're like, all right, I've gotten this shot so many different times. And then you just like your hand's already on that zoom. And then you're like, oh, as I get closer, the people get bigger or smaller. Or it compresses, and it's just one of those things.
It's a cool look. It definitely has its place, especially in weird stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. And the scene that I'm talking about from Jaws is pretty most people know what I'm talking about. And with that one, I have no idea what zoom lens they're using. It's probably like 1,000 millimeters because the way that they pull that off is it's a very long tracking shot of the guy like looking at the camera, and as it gets closer to him, his face gets bigger. But what you do is you take the zoom lens and you go, as you get closer, you just keep the focus and the zoom at the same time. It's a really cool effect.
Yeah, very technical shot to pull off. It's not something.
It's because of the focus. Because as you get closer to something, you can't pull that, or you have to have somebody basically pulling focus at the same time. Yeah,
there's another good example of that type of shot in Goodfellas. There's a scene where Ray Liotta's character, I think, realizes that his world is kind of like flipping upside down.
It's a perfect shot for this one. Like that.
And it's like you just see they're sitting at a diner, and you see like the background kind of like change its dimension. I don't know if you know which part I'm talking about, but
no, but in terms of like when you want to showcase like a compressing of a room, you can definitely do that with a long zoom lens. Next shot was the lighting and how you guys did that very last one. And I know some of that during the edit, it cuts to that shot where he's in front of, I think it was like a yellow wall, and he's wearing a yellow suit or something like that. But I think what was the coolest was, how did you guys, was it just you on a Movi backing up? And what I want to ask is like the lighting in it is, there's one light, and it's like an industrial one, I think.
It was,
And it's just going down, but it just looks beautiful how that's captured.
So that one actually wasn't even, that was just me running backwards, walking fast backwards.
Oh, but you were on the Movi though.
I was on the Movi.
I was gonna say, it was like there's no like, okay, that's a testament to how good he is as a videographer, because that shot is so still, or in terms of like, even if you're walking with a Movi, there's still you can't justify the up and down.
And I mean, I'll just throw out this, you probably know because you're a pro, but a pro tip for people who may not have done worked with a whole lot of Movi footage before is warp stabilizer on top of it can actually make a pretty smooth shot look like it's on rails. I mean, and just my own personal preference, especially for gimbal stuff like that, when you throw that effect on in Premiere, it defaults to being, I think it's called subspace warp is like the version.
Yeah, because what it does. I don't know if I have. For people that are watching this on YouTube, what it does. So say this is the frame, and then say it takes the paper and then it starts stretching the frame, and it will always keep the same pixels within the picture, but it will start pulling it to where it needs to. Whereas like other ones, it will scale in and move around the thing. But what's your favorite settings for
Well, that's what I was going to say is particularly for stuff like that, don't use the fancy subspace stuff. Just go straight up position. Occasionally position, scale, rotation. But I actually really just like set it to position, do 90% smoothness, because if it tries to hit 100 or I don't know why it has more than 100% as an option, but when it gets to that point, it's doing some other weird stuff. But 90%, I'll usually check the detailed analysis box. I don't know if that really does anything extra, but it feels good to check that box. But it's
it's
really
a placebo
cleans up.
effect.
Yeah, it probably is. It just makes it take longer. But anyway, yeah. So that was, and that light in that shot was a house light. And it wasn't something that we set up. I mean, you could see how high up it was.
Yeah, it was perfect for it, especially that industrial look of what was going on.
Yeah. So sometimes it's not always about you setting up the light. It's about identifying the lights that are already working and working with those.
Yeah, and not only that, but I think this is where the equipment comes into play. Like, so say you're shooting something with, like we have the A7S behind me. The big distinguishing part between this camera and something like a Red is the dynamic range and the bit depth that it can shoot at. When you're on that Red, it's the color space that's there, and not necessarily the color space, but the luma, the blacks to whites, how much information you can pull from that to make the composition look how you want it to, and not look like it's shot on a cell phone. Because like you could do it as like, you could try and get it as good as you wanted to with an A7S, and it's a great low light camera, but you're not going to achieve that kind of thing with that camera. You're not going to be able to get that light just right and have it be a soft light and see the gradients of all of the all the background. It just, I don't know, it was a beautiful shot.
Thank you. No, it's true. Like one of the things, and I mean, like there are 1,000 different things that make an image look cinematic versus like just something you like pull out and shoot with your cell phone. And there's a time and place for that, obviously, but a few of the things that I think a lot of them are just things that you feel without actually necessarily noticing. The one that's to me is the biggest kind of like giveaway that like either the biggest like quickest identifier that I can say with a lot of like lower end cameras versus some of the more expensive stuff is highlight retention. You can really tell, and I mean there's a time and place to blow out your highlights and just let that happen. But
I was gonna say just as a great example of that is the Formula One, where you have the crew in that opening shot, and the crew is completely dark, and in the background it's kind of blown out, and then you can see some of in the ridges of their stuff. You can see some of like the actual color, but that aesthetically, that's how that. I don't know if that's how you shot it, but that's like, oh, it's just like an establishment. But can continue.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that some of the nicer cameras will allow you to pull off shots that maybe have a wide range from light to dark in the frame. And I mean, you can always, you can work around that, but having a camera that's got a sensor with that kind of latitude, really like it opens up some looks that you probably wouldn't be able to get otherwise, which is cool. It's just one of those, it's one of many little things that, it's nice.
It's eliminating friction between point A to point B creatively, like because to pull off the same shot. So the great example of this is daylight. You have an amazing what really makes awesome shots during the day, if you don't have complete gray cast cloud cover, if you have just the cumulus clouds and they're spotty, they're like, but there's just enough of them, and there's blue and there's clouds, and then if it's golden hour or whatever, everything looks amazing. But it's not golden hour, it's like something midday, and you need to shoot something where maybe somebody's underneath a awning or something like that. with a more expensive camera, the tools that you would be using are far less. Or if you did add more tools to that, say ND filters and things of that nature, it would accentuate how much easier it would be to shoot something like that.
Yeah.
If you were using something like an A7S, it's like either you get those awesome clouds, or you get the people down below, and even you can go with either.
Yeah.
And then if you throw like a polarizer, an ND filter, there's still some moving around and adjusting that, but it just takes so much more time to do something like that.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, like, it's in those situations, it's like, it's all about ratios. Like, no matter what you do in front of the lens, unless you're adding light or bouncing light, you know, into them, they're going to be, you know, say like 8 stops under what the background is. So, you know, sometimes you just got to let it blow out. I tend to favor, when I can, underexposing things a little bit, if I have to go one way or another. Partially just because digital cameras are so good these days, you can dig a lot out of the shadows that you didn't used to be able to.
But you can't get those highlights back.
But the highlights, when they're gone, man, they're gone.
Yeah, for sure.
Can't unbake that cake. So
I'm gonna start using that as well.
You know, I mean, like, it's just one of those things. So plus, I just kind of like, I mean, it's a moodier look, but I just like underexposing a little bit as a look in general. I mean, when the project is suited to it.
Yeah, for sure. Something like Summer X Games that you shot, you were getting some really intimate shots there. And what I mean is, not everybody is going to be able to get right next to the handlebar or as they like. There's one shot at the end where the skateboarder's going right past you and things like that. Were you there on behalf of them shooting that?
So yeah, it's the X Games. That whole situation is kind of a funny story, but basically. That was the first thing that I did when I started working out at CODA, Circuit of the Americas, for people who don't know.
Yeah.
So I basically was there. I was the video department for almost a year. And the reason that I was there in the first place was after, so this was, I guess, like 2015, after South by Southwest, which is a busy time of year for especially in our industry. You know, I was kind of in that mode where it's like, okay, I need to find some work to come, you know, like what's ahead, like same thing, like you got to hustle. So I'm looking for some work, and I knew, like, I think it was the second year, but I knew X Games was coming up soon after that. I had no connection to X Games, CODA, anything like that at all. And so this is something I would highly encourage people to do. Take a chance and reach out to people. If you would be surprised at, I mean, not always, but like you'll get responses back that you probably would not expect from people in a higher position at times. Yeah. So what I did was I emailed, I went on ESPN's website. I found their media crew for X Games. And I emailed them, like literally just like, hey, my name's Scott. Here's some work that I've done. Do you guys need a shooter for the X Games? And didn't really expect anything out of it. Couple days later, I got like what looked like a canned response saying like, oh, we got your info. Thanks for sending. We're all crewed up, but you know, we'll keep you in mind. Yeah. So I just kind of forgot about it. And then about a week after that, I got an email from one of the guys in the communications department out at CODA, and he was like, oh, hey, Danny over at ESPN gave us your contact info. Would you be interested in coming out here to talk about some, you know, like some work that we might have? And I was like, awesome. Yeah, of course. So I went there pretty soon after I got a job, and the first week, I think it was the second day I was there, was the X Games. So I basically,
that's crazy.
It was the dream for me to have that kind of like just unlimited access. So, you know, I got to shoot practice when I wanted to. I could be right up in there. So the kid who was skating by me in that shot, it was literally like, you know, it's 2 p.m. There's nothing going on in the office. I'm just going to go see what people are doing out there, if anybody's practicing, that kind of thing. So a lot of those shots were just me running around while people were, you know, just getting ready for the X Games and shooting whatever looked appealing to me at the time. Obviously, like, access is key because it's not something you would just go to the X Games and shoot. Well,
that's one of those things, like the shots that you're getting, you can tell it's like, oh no, he's here to like shoot on behalf of someone.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I was going to ask is, for that kind of stuff when you're shooting, because I feel like that goes more into the live event videographer spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're were you using something like this at that time?
Yeah. Yes.
One of the things about the Red camera, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it fills up space like nobody's business.
Oh, yes, it does.
So I'm assuming that you have to be choosy about your shots.
Definitely.
And with a live event like that, how do you go about, or what's your approach to filming something and knowing like, all right, I know at this moment the person's going to jump and get that shot. Like there's those kinds of things, and there's particulars.
Yeah.
I guess I want to frame the question in, when you go to shoot B-roll at an event, what goes through your head?
So the first thing I'm thinking about is just what coverage do I need to make this work for the edit, right? So whether it's a convention or a sports or, like music, you want to think about the end product, what you need to do to get there, right? So the first thing I'm thinking of are, what are my have-to-have shots? Who do I need to see on camera? What are they going to be doing? Where can I be to get those shots? And you don't always know this stuff beforehand. Sometimes you're learning it as you go, obviously. So you need to be ready to change things quickly. But yeah, you're totally right. Like, space is a consideration with that camera. A lot of it is just making sure I get the variety in my coverage also, because you don't want to have 30 shots that are all close-ups. You don't want to have nothing but wide shots. And I mean, obviously, like, the easy answer is a zoom lens. So most of the time, if I'm shooting, like just live event coverage, I'll have like a rangy zoom lens, whatever the best one I can get my hands on at the time is.
The one that goes down to the lowest number in, in that F range.
Yeah, you get it. So that and an ND filter, and just head out and do my thing. I mean, it's really just, I'm always thinking about what needs to be, what they need to make the final cut. And then I'll work backwards from there. So as soon as I've got like, okay, I've got a tight of the lead singer, I've got a wide of the crowd, I've got like the side view where the drummer's doing his thing. Like, what else do I need to make this like a complete, feel the experience of the event? And then I'll knock off little insert shots, cutaway stuff that doesn't necessarily tie into a specific thing, but it's something that the editor will be able to cut away to if they need just something, right? Like an extra shot, some texture to throw in. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it. It's a whole lot of just doing it on the fly. And so yeah, the challenge with something like this, and we kind of talked about it, I mentioned a little bit in my email, is just if you're shooting live events, right? There are cameras that are better suited to that style of shooting for sure. But there are still trade-offs in either case. So if I go out with this thing, it's power hungry. It's gonna need a new battery.
It's just like it wants to soak up energy.
Yeah, it's gonna eat up batteries. It's gonna fill up cards fast. And it's not a light camera. It's not like as heavy as this one, but it's not light. So you got to think about, like, I'm gonna be carrying this thing around all day. I need to know what I need with me all the time in my backpack or whatever. But I would say that the positive trade-offs have actually been very nice. Have been worth it to me for that stuff, because like, I think most of the time, as a producer, you're probably not, if you're a producer and you've got an event that you need covered, you're probably not out looking for the dude with the red. You're probably just looking for, like an FS7 is like almost perfect for that stuff. But one of the nice things about using a camera like this is it does have other things that it can do that you probably wouldn't expect in an event coverage setting. And it's gotten me through some stuff. So I'll give you an example. I was shooting it was Wizard World a few years
Sounds
back.
about right.
Yeah. And I was doing coverage for them, and there was one point where they basically had a completely unscheduled interview that they wanted me to do with this guy, and it needed to be like a locked off shot, and I didn't have a tripod because I had just been running around with the camera all day, and that was it. Like, I just had the camera. So what I ended up having to do was frame him a little wider than I normally would and handhold it, which obviously is not going to be like totally locked off. But because I was shooting it in like 6K, going back to Warp Stabilizer, you would never know it wasn't on a tripod.
That's
so
crazy.
Like there are like little perks like that that are, you know, kind of nice to have that you probably wouldn't have in like if you took a C300 out, you know, you got what you got. But that said, like if I'm just going out and I have the option, I'll probably still pick the better suited camera. But it's just one of those things, like, you know, it's not as silly as you might think to bring like a more like cinema oriented camera to live events. You know, and it's just there are perks and there are drawbacks. You just got to be prepared for it. And the more you shoot with these things, like the more you know, like the little issues that they have that come up in the field, so you can prep for those a little bit better too. But
When you're warp stabilizing that 6K shot, do you warp stabilize the full thing and then work from there, or do you frame it how you want to and then warp stabilize?
Usually I'll do the full thing and then frame after that, just because
and
I
then
wanna
maybe
take
put
full
another
advantage.
warp on that.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a friend of mine. Well, you know, so Patrick. The other day, he used this camera to shoot a little a vlog, a series that he's starting up. And the analogy that he used that I really liked was, it's like killing an ant with a baseball bat. Like you don't need it, but like it's kind of nice to have, you know. So I'd say take full advantage of it. You know, like if you've got 6Ks to work with them, you know, and do the best you can with it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially being an editor full time, it's I'll take all the things that I want or that I can get. But it's a lot cooler if in the future they are a lot faster in the processing end of things, which is getting that way.
Yeah.
Working with corporate clients, are those more formulaic in terms of, all right, we know we want to go shoot this. Here is our idea, and then how do you go from there?
So I definitely, when I first got started, I absolutely was trying to do the one-man band thing, and I still do that on occasion. But generally, if someone's approaching me nowadays and they have an idea, it's great when clients come to you with an idea, because at least even if you don't like it, you have something to build off of. Whereas in my experience, if you just are you know, they're like, we want a video. If you just throw something out that they haven't like had any input on, it will probably not get. They're not going to take it. Right?
Yeah.
And even if they do, like, they're going to tweak it a lot, because everyone wants to feel like they have, and you know, this is just like human psychology. You want to feel like you have input in these things. So like, even if it's a perfect treatment for this project, someone's going to change something, because they want to know that they did something, right? So,
either that, or I'd say that they know their brand way more than you would. You know?
That's a great point. You know, like, exactly. So basically, if they come to you and they've got an idea, that's a great scenario. And then I know basically where I need to start. You know, what do I need to pull off what they're talking about? So one thing that I always will do, because I've been burned enough times by this, and I'm sure you have felt this too, is I will push to have a sound person there.
Oh my God!
Always.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's just one of those things, and it's again, it's one of those things that gets overlooked. It gets overlooked so frequently. Like, oh yeah, you have a recorder, you can just do the sound.
Nope,
it's important to have someone else thinking about it.
Yeah, not only that, but the so even right now, I have you can't really see. Maybe I have the sound recorder right here, right next to me, and I know I'm like I can see the levels and I can see the talking and everything. Where even then, I'm not like listening to it. And even on my last interview, I would opt for doing a lav microphone going straight into my phone on the actual time. So if we were doing something like that, I would because I know that things work. It's not going to go away unless somebody gives me a call. So I have it on airplane mode. But I had my H4n and then I had my lav mic, and the lav mic started hitting RF halfway through the interview.
Oh, man.
But it's again, it's like it's YouTube, whatever, you know, and so with those audio things, there's only so much that you can do when you're the one-man band, and it's an interview, and most of the time that's why I opt for if I'm wearing a wireless and I can't monitor it, I'm like, all right, I want to be the person doing that. If there's a way to, if I had lavaliers that I could just hardwire into something, I go. this is getting really into
No, it's
particulars,
okay.
but the way that I think about sound is you want to use a device that's dedicated to that thing. So
Yeah.
what a lot of people, so for this podcast, for example, what a lot of people might do is they'll use a computer to record the sound. I would strongly be against that because the computer is meant to do a lot of things. And since it's supposed to be doing a lot of tasks, that thing could go down like whatever.
Yeah.
And then by using something like an H4n, all it does is record sound. It's like,
Yeah.
give me the sound, give me all of it. And I can tell you, I've been hosed by this exact H6n. We were recording John Cena, and the card blew. But what I do is I run the H6n, I go out the output, and then I go into an H4n and just record stereo anyway. It's not gonna be isolated tracks, but for that kind of stuff, that's
Yeah.
what I did. And I was actually thinking about doing that for this one, but I was like, all right, whatever.
That's a
It's not
bad
gonna
idea.
happen to me again. But just know you can get hosed on all that kind of stuff. And that led into, like, we did this whole bit afterwards where we filmed John Cena, and again, I had this camera with the Rode microphone, and I forgot to hit the on button on the Rode.
Yeah.
And so we did a whole take, and he's got time. He doesn't have time to like be doing more than one take.
Yeah.
And so we did one take. The camera's not on, and I don't know if you know this, but like you can still boost the crap out of what's coming from the Rode, and it's gonna sound like shit, but at least there's something there. And I'm like, I had to tell John Cena, like, hey, we didn't record audio on that one. I'm sorry, but it was because I was focused entirely on getting the shot.
Exactly.
And so we do the take again, and again, I grabbed my H4n, and then I just put it somewhere in the room because I was like, if there's any audio, it's just I have to get something. And I know I have 2 good takes of it, so I know at least if I have to like cut between stuff, at least I know I have 2 good visuals. But I need 1 good audio. And you can get so hosed on audio, and you don't want to think about it. You just want to be able to be there and be creative in the visual space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, word of the wise, get a sound person. I've had very similar experiences, and it's just one of those things. So I will definitely, when I get a corporate project, that's one of the first things I'll look for. I can light by myself. I don't want to have to do that on the day, but I can if I have to. I'll usually try and get a gaffer if I can, so that there's someone else there to work with me so they can tweak lights while I set up a shot, and we can kind of adjust things as needed. But yeah, I mean, other times it's like this is an instructional video, or it's a video for internal use or something like that. So you get their. I would like to cater to their vision as much as possible, and I don't want to make things difficult for them. So if I can get the crew that I need to pull it off, that's my main thing. And then it's just a matter of making sure we're on the same page about, how things are done, what the script, the treatment, whatever goes along with that. But it's just, crew it up and get it done.
Yeah. Awesome. This has been such a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where can people find you?
Probably the best spot to get me is on Instagram, which is @undeadbatteries, all one word.
Have you ever gotten hosed on batteries before?
Absolutely. Yes, I have.
Okay.
But yeah, no, that's probably the best spot to get at me.
Awesome. Is it Merce Nation? Is it Javi Posse? Is it Merce Universe? I don't know. YouTube fam. It's like one of those branding things where you say the thing and you do the thing.
Yeah.
So, hey, next time, come back next Wednesday. We got all types of interviews, and thank you so much, Scott, for being on the show. We'll have another episode just talking specifically about this Alexa and Red and just how they compare to something like an A7S or a Sony FS7, which this wide has been being shot on. Quick side note. When you're doing SEO and stuff and you're posting videos and things of that nature, the word shoot nowadays is like, it's so hard to utilize that as a term, because I'm like, to give you an idea, hey, don't care that this is a tangent. You thought we were on the out, but I'm not. The photographer that I did an Interv Wednesday with, he he photorized the president. You can't say something like, oh, he shot the president. It's so hard. And like, not only that, but it's like, oh, are you shooting people? Like it's a completely different ball game nowadays. Anyhow, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Till next time, Javier out. Subscribe, like, comment, all those things. Check out Scott.